The red hold tag keeps slapping the shrink wrap like it's trying to get somebody's attention. I stand between the loading dock and 12 pallets of Model 6K restaurant fire extinguishers, while the truck in Bay 3 rattles hard enough to make the dock plates tremble. Every brass valve on the sample table has the same pale crescent along the pressure seal. Gavin comes through the yellow safety gate without his glasses. Why aren't they loading? I hold out the cracked seal. Because this lot can't ship. His jaw tightens. 40 people can hear him when he says, "Ship them or clear your desk. I don't move." He takes my badge off my collar and fires me before the truck leaves. Then he tears my hold tags from 11 pallets. He misses the 12th. That one has folded inward beneath a second layer of shrink wrap, its red corner trapped against the cartons. I see it. Gavin doesn't. 4 hours later, their biggest distributor cuts open the first pallet and finds my name under the plastic. But before that happens, I have to carry a cardboard box past everyone I just failed to protect. The box is the kind our accounting department uses for old invoices. Tessa from shipping puts it on my desk without looking at me, then starts helping me pack. 2 coffee mugs, a spare pair of safety glasses, 3 protein bars so old they could qualify as building materials. The smooth black stone Ben gave me after my first month in quality because I'd told him I needed something heavy enough to keep production travelers from curling under the vent. "You want the little fan?" Tessa asks. "It makes a noise." "You said it helps you concentrate." "It sounds like a cricket trapped in a pill bottle." She puts it in the box anyway. Through the office window, I can see Louis standing beside the valve setting station. His hands are on his hips. The maintenance guard is still off the torque head, exposing the coupling that had started chirping after the weekend service. He catches me looking and lifts his chin once. Luis had called me at 6:42 that morning. "Machine sounds wrong," he'd said. That was all. Luis could identify most equipment failures by sound, but he described every one of them as wrong. A bearing could scream like a subway brake, and Luis would say it sounded a little wrong. A conveyor motor could tear itself loose and chase somebody down the aisle, and he'd probably call it noticeably wrong. I had pulled 6 finished extinguishers from the first rack after the service restart. 4 passed, 2 showed a thin white line beneath the valve collar. Under magnification, the line became a fracture through the sealing ring. By 7:30, I had 12 pallets in temporary hold, and the samples lined up by serial number. By 8:10, Gavin had turned my badge around so he could read my name before taking it. Tessa closes the flaps of my box, but doesn't tape them. "What did he put on the separation form?" I ask. She gives me a look. "Tess, insubordination and disruption of scheduled distribution. That's ambitious." He dictated it to Marcy. Of course he did. Marcy handles payroll, vendor birthdays, and any sentence Gavin wants typed without leaving fingerprints. Tessa's mouth twitches, but only for a second. "Claire, they're loading them." A forklift beeps in reverse outside the window. The first pallet passes behind Gavin's office wall, extinguishers gleaming through the plastic. I can still stop it, I think. That's the stupidest thought I have all day. My authority ended when he took the badge. If I step onto the dock now, I'm trespassing in steel-toed shoes. If I grab the bill of lading, Gavin will call security. If I call Mid-Atlantic myself without access to the lot file, he'll say an angry former employee is trying to sabotage an order. So I pick up my box. Tessa reaches for it. I can carry. I have it. The bottom bows immediately. She takes the fan back out and tucks it under her arm. Fine. I'll steal this. I almost laugh. It comes out as air through my nose. At the front doors, my badge doesn't work. Of course it doesn't. Tessa has to open the employee exit from inside, and for one ridiculous moment, we're both standing there while I wait to be released from the building where I've worked for 9 years. The late morning heat has already turned the parking lot silver. My car sits in the far row because Gavin once announced that management should leave the closest spaces for hourly staff. He still parks beside the door. Behind me, the Bay 3 truck pulls out. I stop walking. The trailer turns toward the gate. Sunlight flashes across the wrap on the last pallet, and I see a tiny square of red pressed flat beneath the plastic. Tag 1847. I had threaded its wire through the wrap myself before the second pass from the turntable. It carries the lot number, the inspection time, my initials, and the reason for the hold in block letters. Cracked pressure seals, do not ship. The truck turns onto Cobalt Road and disappears behind the plumbing supply warehouse. You okay? Tessa asks. No, it seems to surprise both of us. She shifts the fan under her arm. Do you want me to follow you home? I'm fired, not concussed. Your box is leaking protein bars. One has dropped beside my shoe. The wrapper is swollen from 3 summers in my desk drawer. I pick it up. This day has taken enough from me. That earns an actual laugh. It's small and guilty, but it follows me all the way to my car. At home, I put the box on the kitchen table and stare at it, as if somebody has delivered the personal effects of a woman I used to know. Our house is quiet in the middle of the day. Ben's boots are lined up beneath the bench by the back door, one listing to the side because the heel is worn. A bowl on the counter holds 2 peaches going soft. On the refrigerator, Gavin's invitation to the company cookout is secured by a magnet shaped like a fire extinguisher. I take the invitation down, fold it twice, then unfold it because folding it feels theatrical. My phone shows 3 missed calls. One from Human Resources, which means Marcy. One from Ben, one from Gavin. I set it face down. The kitchen clock ticks for a while before I realize I'm still holding my keys. I put them in the bowl, miss, and send one of the peaches rolling into the sink. The ordinary stupidity of that nearly breaks me. Instead, I wash the peach. At noon, 83 miles away, June Park opens the first pallet at Mid-Atlantic Safety Supply's Richmond crossdock. I learn the details later, but I picture them accurately because I've walked that facility with her. June carries a folding ceramic cutter that she keeps clipped inside her vest. She cuts stretch wrap away from her body, never toward it. She checks corner damage before product count. She reads whatever paperwork people expect her to throw away. The pallet from Bay 3 is supposed to be split for 3 restaurant service branches. A receiving clerk notices one carton pressing hard against the center wrap, so June tells him to cut the upper layers and reset the load. The plastic loosens. My red tag slides down the face of the carton and hangs by its wire. June reads it. Then she tells everyone to stop. She photographs the tag where it is. She photographs the stamped overlap in the wrap. She photographs the lot labels and the trailer seal. She moves all 12 pallets into quarantine. Then she calls Keene Fire Equipment and asks for me. Gavin answers instead. I'm sitting on the kitchen floor when Ben comes home. Not crying, just sitting. I had crouched to retrieve the peach and decided the tile was a reasonable place to stay. Ben finds me with my back against a cabinet and one leg stretched across the path to the refrigerator. He still has aluminum dust on the knees of his work pants from the commercial millwork installation he's been supervising downtown. He closes the door gently. Gavin called me. I saw that he called me too. What happened? He told you. I want you to tell me. His face is open in the careful way people arrange it when they already know which answer they prefer. I get up because I don't want to explain the end of my career from the floor. The valve head was over-torquing after maintenance. I found cracked seals on 2 samples, expanded the pull, and held the lot. Gavin ordered me to release it. And you refused. Yes, and he fired you. In front of loading. Ben rubs his palm across the back of his neck. He said the marks were cosmetic. He knows better. He said the body's past hydro. The body's past hydro before the final valve installation. I know that. I'm telling you what he said. I open the refrigerator without wanting anything. Cold air settles against my shirt. Ben leans on the kitchen table, notices the box, and looks away. The Mid-Atlantic order had to leave today. Then they should have made safe extinguishers. You know what I mean? Yes, I do. His mouth hardens. They're already on a corrective schedule. If they miss another fill rate target, June can suspend exclusivity. That contract is exactly why Gavin should care what's on the truck. He does care. Then he's having a strange day. Ben looks at the fire extinguisher magnet beside the unfolded cookout invitation. His father had ordered 500 of those magnets for a trade show and died before they arrived. For years, every Keene relative got them in stockings, birthday cards, and boxes of leftovers. "Did you say anything to him before it got to the dock?" Ben asks. I opened a nonconformance report. That isn't what I asked. I told him at 7:50. He told me to recheck. And then I rechecked. "Claire, what would you like me to have said?" "I don't know. Something that didn't end with you two fighting in front of the entire plant." There it is. Not that I was wrong. That I was visible. I didn't fire myself in front of the plant. I didn't say you did. You're working up to it. He walks to the sink and runs water over his hands. Gray residue spirals off his fingers. "Mom called too," he says. "Efficient. She's worried." About the extinguishers? About everything. The distributor, the credit line, payroll. You and Gavin turning every disagreement into a trial. I shut the refrigerator. Ben's shoulders sink a little. He looks tired enough that I can see the charming version of him inside the difficult one. That makes it worse. "When the two of you were reviewing submittals last month," I say, "and the architect wanted a cheaper fire-rated panel, what did you do?" "That's different." "How?" "I didn't stop a shipment worth $300,000. You refused the substitution because the wall assembly wouldn't meet code. The pressure seals are cracked." He dries his hands slowly. "Could you have documented it and let Gavin make the release?" "He did make the release." "You know what I'm asking." "Yes, I do. Could I have placed my objection neatly into the record, stepped out of the way, and let his family keep loving me without inconvenience?" My phone vibrates on the counter. For half a second, I think it's Gavin again. It's a text from Tessa. Mid-Atlantic called. They found 1847 under the wrap. June quarantined everything. Gavin says you planted it after he fired you. I read it twice. Ben watches my face. "What?" I hand him the phone. His eyes stop on the last sentence. "That's not possible," he says. "No. The truck was already loading." "Yes. He knows that." "Yes." Ben gives the phone back as if it has become hot. A knock sounds at the front door. Neither of us moves. Then Gavin lets himself in with the key Ruth gave him when Ben had back surgery. He comes into the kitchen carrying a white envelope and the smell of the peppermint gum he chews when he wants people to think he's calm. He takes in the box, the invitation, and Ben's face. "So," he says quietly, "they found the tag." I lean against the counter. "You missed one." His eyes settle on me, and something changes there. On the dock, I had been an obstacle. Now I'm a risk he needs to measure. "The tag complicates this," he says. "The cracked seals complicate it. June hasn't confirmed a defect. She confirmed a hold tag on goods you shipped. Gavin places the envelope on the table. He doesn't throw it or slide it dramatically. He lines it up with the wood grain. That kind of care is one reason he is good at sales. He makes aggression look organized. "I can still contain this," he says, "for the company and for you." Ben stares at the envelope. "What is that?" 8 weeks severance. Claire's benefits through the end of next month. A neutral reference. "In exchange for what?" I ask. "A standard release. With a statement saying I mishandled the hold?" Gavin's pause is brief. Ben notices it anyway. "The statement says there was a procedural dispute," Gavin says. "It doesn't assign blame." "Give it to me." He opens the envelope and hands me 6 pages. The statement is on page 4. I find my name, Mid-Atlantic, and the sentence Gavin wants me to sign. I initiated a product hold before completing required verification and created uncertainty regarding the condition of finished goods. There's another sentence saying I have no evidence Keene Fire Equipment knowingly shipped defective products. Gavin taps the page. "That's true. We don't know they're defective." You stripped 11 tags. I made an operational decision. You fired the person who made the hold. I fired an employee who refused a direct instruction. Ben pulls out a chair but remains standing behind it. Gav, did you tell June Claire planted the tag afterward? Gavin looks at his brother. I told her we're investigating how it got there. Tessa said, Tessa wasn't on the call. She was outside your office. For the first time, Gavin's calm slips. It returns almost immediately, but I see what sits underneath it. Not panic exactly, calculation under pressure. He faces me again. If Mid-Atlantic cancels, the bank will review the line. If the bank reviews the line now, Mom may have to secure it personally. Luis, Tessa, Marcy, all those people you're so determined to protect, they're the ones who pay for this. The tag didn't crack those seals. You don't have proof the seals are cracked. I walk to the cardboard box and lift out a thin red booklet. Gavin's gaze follows it. Every hold tag comes from a numbered carbon copy book. The original travels with the product. The yellow copy goes to the quality file. The pink stays bound to the spine until the book is archived. I open it to the last completed page. Tag 1847, lot number, inspection time, sample serials, my initials. The same block letters now hanging from a quarantined pallet in Richmond. And beneath the defect description, written before Gavin came through the yellow gate, are the torque readings from the first 6 extinguishers. I turn the book so both brothers can see. Gavin stops chewing his gum. That belongs to Keene, he says. I close my hand around the spine. You told everyone I didn't follow the hold procedure. He glances at Ben, then back at me. I followed it all the way to the truck. Give me the book, Gavin says. You'll get it back through Marcy, with a receipt. It's company property. So is my badge. You managed to document that transfer. He holds out his hand. I keep the booklet against my ribs. Under different circumstances, the three of us could be standing in this kitchen, arguing over who forgot to bring rolls to Ruth's house. Gavin and Ben have the same hands, broad palms, blunt fingers, nails cut too short. Their father's hands. One of them is gripping a chair. The other is waiting for evidence. Ben looks between us. How did it get here? Tessa packed my desk. You removed quality records from the plant, Gavin says. I carried out the box your shipping clerk packed while you were loading held product. That doesn't make it yours. I didn't say it did. His hand lowers. I take my phone from the counter and photograph the page while both of them watch. Then I photograph the booklet's cover and the numbered pages before and after 1847. Gavin gives a dry laugh. That's confidential production data. You told Mid-Atlantic I planted the tag. This shows when it was issued. It shows you wrote in a book. It shows 1846 was used Tuesday on a dented siphon tube and cleared by you at 3:14. It shows 1848 was issued this morning for the broken carton at receiving. If I invented 1847 after you fired me, I would have needed the book, the missing original tag, the lot and serial numbers, and access to a pallet that was already on the truck. He reaches for the booklet. I step back. Ben moves the chair between us without seeming to mean to. The wooden legs scrape across the tile. Gavin looks at him. Seriously? Claire said she'll return it. She can return it now. With a receipt, Ben says. The words do not make him my ally. They make him a man trying to keep his brother from grabbing something out of his wife's hands in their kitchen. Still, Gavin hears the difference. He folds the release and puts it back in the envelope. Tomorrow at 10, he says. Marcy will meet you in the lobby. Bring the book. The severance offer expires Friday. Why? Because by Friday I'll know how much damage you intend to cause. He leaves without saying goodbye. Ben waits until the front door closes. You shouldn't have that. I know. You took pictures of confidential records. I took pictures of the pages Gavin is about to lose. You don't know he'd do that. I look at him. He drops into the chair. Okay, I hear it. No, you don't. I said I hear it. That's what you say when you want credit for listening before you tell me why I'm wrong. He rubs both hands down his face. I carry the booklet upstairs and put it in the small fireproof box where we keep our passports, insurance policies, and the title to Ben's truck. I don't lock it. Locking it would turn our house into opposing territory, and we're already close enough. Neither of us eats dinner. Ben sleeps beside me but faces the wall, his body held rigid under the sheet. Sometime after midnight, he moves to the guest room. In the morning, I put tag book 1801 through 1850 into a clear freezer bag because it's raining. I seal the top with blue painter's tape and sign across the tape. Ben watches from the doorway in his work clothes. You think they'll tamper with it? I think nobody remembers chain of custody until they need one. He looks at the signature. You sound like Gavin. That's unkind. I didn't mean... I know. The drive to Keene takes 22 minutes. I know where traffic backs up near the garden center, which lane floods by the railroad bridge, and exactly when the red letters on the factory sign become visible above the sycamores. Keene Fire Equipment. The first E has been slightly crooked since a windstorm 6 years ago. I submitted a maintenance request for it once. Gavin rejected the expense and said crooked letters gave a family company character. My badge is dead, so I press the visitor button. Marcy comes to the lobby holding a clipboard. She wears a soft green cardigan and an expression appropriate for identifying a body. I'm sorry about all this, she says. What are you sorry about? The question lands harder than I intend. Marcy blinks. The situation. Behind her, the hallway to quality is visible through the glass doors. Someone has taken my nameplate down. The 2 screw holes remain. I place the sealed bag on the counter. This is hold tag book 1801 through 1850. It was packed with my personal belongings yesterday. The seal is signed. I need you to verify the page count and give me a receipt. Marcy looks at the bag. Gavin said you'd return a notebook. It's a controlled record. Yes, right. She disappears, then returns with Luis. He is still wearing his blue line-lead shirt. There's black grease beneath one thumbnail. He looks at me for half a second before focusing on the bag. I can witness, he says. Marcy cuts the painter's tape. Together, they count the pink copies and compare the used numbers to the index printed inside the cover. When Luis reaches 1847, he pauses. 6 samples, he reads. 2 failed visual. Torque 114 and 117. Marcy's pen stops. The approved range tops out at 105. Keep going, I say. He does. Marcy writes a receipt on company letterhead. Luis signs beneath her. I take a picture of the receipt and put the original in my purse. As I turn to leave, Luis says, "The machine still chirps." Marcy stares down at her clipboard. "Is maintenance checking the coupling?" I ask. They put the old head back on. "The one from line 2? He nods. That head had been retired because it wandered low, not high. It might produce loose valves, but it would make today's readings look safely beneath the maximum. "Luis," Marcy says quietly, "I'm talking about a machine." "You're talking to someone who doesn't work here." Luis's eyes stay on me. Machine doesn't care. Outside, the rain has sharpened. I sit in my car with the receipt on my lap and watch employees arrive for the second shift. My phone rings from a Richmond number. "Claire Keene?" a woman asks. "Yes." This is June Park with Mid-Atlantic. Her voice is lower than I remember, deliberate enough that every word seems placed with tweezers. "I understand you're no longer employed by Keene Fire Equipment, as of yesterday morning. Were you employed there at 7:12 yesterday?" "Yes." "Did you issue hold tag 1847? "Yes." "Did you attach it to pallet KFE-773-C? "Yes." "Before or after the pallet was wrapped?" "Before the final wrap pass. The wire was through the first layer. Why?" "So the tag couldn't fall off during movement." Silence. I can hear keyboard keys. "Did you place it there after your termination?" "No, I didn't re-enter the dock after Gavin took my badge." "Mr. Keene says you may have had access while collecting your belongings." "My office doesn't open onto loading. I left through the employee entrance with Tessa Moreno. The truck was sealed before I reached my car. Another pause. I'm going to ask the question that matters, June says. Did you observe a defect? I observed crescent fractures on 2 of 6 pressure seals after final valve installation. Both units recorded torque above the approved limit. I expanded the hold to the finished lot pending retention testing. Mr. Keene characterized them as surface witness marks. Ask him whether the marks break the inner edge of the sealing ring. June waits. He'll know why that matters, I say. I have the tagged pallet preserved. I'll inspect the ring. I can't provide Keene records I don't own. I didn't ask you to. Not yet. Something in her voice warms by half a degree. Fair. I'm asking you to preserve any lawful records already in your possession and to send me a written account of what you personally observed. Mid-Atlantic's agreement requires Keene to fund a lot review if receiving evidence conflicts with a certificate of conformance. They'll send you hydro certificates. They already did. Those tests happened before final valve installation. The typing stops. Put that in your account, she says. When we hang up, I sit with my hands on the steering wheel until someone knocks on the passenger window. Ruth stands outside beneath a red umbrella. I unlock the door. She gets in, closing the umbrella badly enough to spray rain across the dashboard. She wears a cream raincoat and lipstick too bright for 10 in the morning. Ruth believes pale colors make hard conversations civilized. You knew I was here? I ask. Gavin told me you were returning company property. That was quick. He also told me Mid-Atlantic found one of your tags. One he missed. She sets the wet umbrella between her knees. Claire, you taught me to wire tags under the first wrap layer. I taught you to keep product from moving accidentally, and it worked. She closes her eyes for a moment. Ruth started in the plant's front office when it still occupied a converted tire warehouse. She can read a gauge, rebuild an actuator, and make a banker feel cheap for charging interest. Her retreat from daily operations was a decision, not a decline. That is why her defense of Gavin hurts more than ignorance would. He kept this place alive after Arthur died, she says. I know. He found Mid-Atlantic. He negotiated the exclusivity. He carried sales while the rest of us were still walking around expecting Arthur to come through a door. I know what Gavin did. Then understand what he's trying to protect. I turn toward her. What do you think I was protecting? The difference is he has 47 livelihoods in his hands, and I had 12 pallets. Her fingers tighten around the umbrella handle. Sign the release, she says. Take the severance. Let the technical review happen without turning this into a family execution. Gavin fired me on the dock. He acted in anger. He shipped in calculation. Ruth looks through the windshield at the factory entrance. You always know how to make the clean argument. That isn't a compliment. No, it isn't. She turns back to me. People have to live after the clean argument, Claire. Payroll still comes Friday. My signature won't make the seals safe. It may keep Mid-Atlantic from interpreting a production disagreement as deliberate misconduct. It was deliberate. You don't know the product will fail. I knew enough to stop it. The rain drums on the roof. Ruth's lipstick has bled into one fine line at the corner of her mouth. She suddenly looks less like the company's former president and more like Ben's mother sitting in her daughter-in-law's damp car. Ben is frightened, she says. So am I. He won't say it. He says it in other ways. Ruth nods as if that confirms something she wishes it didn't. Before she gets out, she touches the glove compartment with 2 fingers. Your first month in quality, she says. You tagged a whole pallet because one carton had the wrong label facing out. The labels identified different chemical agents. I remember. Arthur wanted to move you back to purchasing. You stopped him. I told him a hold was a question, not an accusation. I wait. Ruth opens the door. Rain curls in around her coat. A question still needs an answer, she says. Then let them test the cylinders. She leaves without promising they will. By Friday, I have no severance, no benefits extension, and 2 emails from companies that were enthusiastic about my resume until they spoke with Keene. The second hiring manager is embarrassed enough to tell me the problem. Your former employer didn't give a negative reference, he says. They confirmed dates and said you're involved in an unresolved product release matter. That's negative with better tailoring. He sighs. Off the record, yes. I thank him anyway. That afternoon, I drive to a restaurant service warehouse on the south side and borrow a coverall that smells faintly of fryer oil. Mel Torres, who runs an independent suppression system inspection company, hands me a clipboard and points toward a row of discharge cylinders. I can pay you by the audit, she says. It's ugly work. I've seen your paperwork. I know. She grins. Still mean. That's promising. The pay is less than half my Keene salary with no guarantee beyond 3 weeks. I spend the day matching serial numbers, weighing cylinders, checking gauge positions, and wiping alkaline residue from valve collars. Near the end of the row, a technician named Darnell taps one gauge with his fingernail. Third Keene, 6K this month, sitting low, he says. What lot? He reads the label. It isn't the shipment June quarantined. It was made 9 days earlier, after the same maintenance crew began servicing the valve heads. I write the number down on Mel's audit sheet. At home, Ben has moved his pillow into the guest room. On the kitchen table lies Gavin's white severance envelope. Ben must have taken it from where I left it beside the box. The signature pages are spread flat. He stands at the sink with both hands braced on the counter. We could use the insurance, he says. I know. Friday's almost over. I know. He turns around. Do you? I set my clipboard down. Before I can answer, his phone lights up between us with Gavin's name. Ben watches it vibrate until the screen goes dark. Then it starts again. On the third call, Ben answers. What? Gavin speaks long enough that Ben's face closes. No, I'm not putting you on speaker. I pick up Mel's clipboard and carry it toward the spare room we use as an office. Ben covers the phone. He wants me to come over. Then go. You don't mind? I mind that you're asking me to approve it. He flinches. I close the office door, but the latch doesn't catch unless you lift it. Ben knows that. He lifts it for me before he leaves. The severance deadline passes at 5. At 5:03, I email Gavin and Marcy that I decline the agreement and dispute the stated basis of my termination. I attach nothing. I copy my personal account, print the sent message, and put it in the fireproof box. Then I sit at the desk and write my account for June. I make it dry. Times, samples, readings, actions. I leave out the way the dock went silent when Gavin took my badge. I leave out Tessa carrying my cricket fan. I leave out the fire extinguisher magnet and Ruth's umbrella dripping on my dashboard. Facts can be emotional without dressing for the occasion. Ben comes home after 8. I hear his boots stop in the kitchen, then the refrigerator open and close. He lifts the office door handle before entering. Did you sign? He asks. No. He nods. What did Gavin want? Ben sits on the edge of the old sleeper sofa. He asked me whether you'd threatened him. Today? Before the inspection, he wanted to know if you'd said anything about making him pay. I turn away from the computer. He wanted to know? He wanted me to remember. What exactly? Ben stares at his hands. Dinner at Mom's after he got the operations job. You said, one day you're going to have to answer for the shortcuts. I said that after he reduced incoming valve inspections. I know. He wants you to turn that into a threat. I know. The room feels smaller with every repetition. What did you tell him? I told him I remembered what you actually said. And he said memory is complicated. A laugh escapes me before I can stop it. That sounds like Gavin. Ben almost smiles. It hurts both of us. He said Mid-Atlantic's attorneys could ask whether you had a motive to embarrass him. He said if I made clear this was a long-running personal conflict, they might treat the tag as unreliable. The tag is attached to a cracked seal. I told him that too. I wait. Ben rubs his thumb along the pale band where he removed his wedding ring for work and forgot to put it back. He said if I wouldn't protect my brother, I could at least protect Mom. There are a dozen cruel questions available to me. I choose none of them. Ben looks up. I told him not to ask me to lie about my wife again. The word wife lands with more force than I expect. Again? I ask. He already asked me to convince you to sign something you don't believe. I close the document. Ben's eyes move to the guest room behind him. I'm sorry. For which part? All the parts I can see so far. It isn't enough, but it is honest. I nod toward the second desk chair. Read this before I send it. He does. He asks why I describe the fracture as extending past the inner sealing edge instead of calling it a cracked seal, because Gavin will say cracked is inflammatory. Is it accurate? Yes. Then use both. I do. At the end, Ben points to the paragraph about the truck. You saw 1847 under the wrap from the parking lot? Yes. Put that in. It sounds convenient. It sounds true. I add it. June acknowledges the statement the next morning with 3 sentences. Mid-Atlantic has invoked Section 8.4 of its supplier agreement. Keene must preserve the lot, relevant production records, calibration data, retained samples, and communications concerning release. A joint review will begin Monday. Gavin copies me on his response. Keene Fire Equipment welcomes a fact-based review and remains confident that a disgruntled former employee misinterpreted benign witness marks during an emotionally charged personnel event. I read it aloud to Mel while we eat sandwiches on overturned chemical buckets behind a restaurant equipment depot. Benign witness marks, she says. I dated one of those. How'd it go? He had a boat and an allergy to accuracy. Mel takes another bite and taps the audit sheet with her pen. We've found 5 low gauges across 3 Keene lots. None are empty. None have discharged. The pattern is inconsistent enough to be dangerous and consistent enough to deserve attention. We can't send this to Mid-Atlantic without the owner's permission, I say. They own restaurants, Claire. They love giving permission to complain about vendors. I'm serious. So am I. She calls each service customer herself. 4 authorize release of the serial numbers and inspection results. The 5th wants a discount first. Mel gives him 10% because, as she tells me after hanging up, principals work better when somebody budgets for them. June answers our email in 9 minutes. Were valve collars photographed before handling? Mel pushes my shoulder. She likes you. She likes documentation. Same thing in your religion. The photos are time-stamped. The serials trace to Keene lots assembled during the 2 weeks surrounding the Torquay Head service. June adds them to the review as field observations, not confirmed failures. By Monday, Gavin has an answer ready. The gauges may have been misread, he writes. Service handling, temperature, storage angle, or ordinary instrument tolerance could explain the readings. Keene's hydrostatic certificates confirm cylinder integrity. He attaches 14 pages of certificates. June forwards his response to me and asks for comment. I write 1 line. Hydrostatic testing preceded installation of the components under review. She replies with a calendar invitation. The meeting is at Mid-Atlantic's cross dock. Claire Keene, technical witness. Compensation attached. The rate is fair, but the terms aren't. I called June once. I won't attend as a favor, I tell her. I'm not asking you to. The agreement says Mid-Atlantic may disclose my work to Keene without restriction. Gavin can turn that into a claim that I shared confidential methods. You'd be analyzing goods we purchased. He'll still make the claim. What do you want? Written confirmation that my participation is requested under the supplier review clause. Indemnification for claims arising solely from authorized analysis. Payment for preparation time, not just the meeting. June is quiet for a moment. Anything else? No retaliation through references. I can't control Keene's references. You can make non-retaliation a condition of the review. That's aggressive. I was fired Tuesday. The revised agreement arrives before lunch. Ben reads it twice at the kitchen table. You negotiated this yourself? June negotiated too. I know, I just expected me to need a lawyer? I expected everybody to need a lawyer for something with indemnification in it. I sign. The cross-dock smells like cardboard, steel, and the bitter coffee from the receiving office. All 12 pallets remain in a taped quarantine lane. Tag 1847 still hangs beneath the original wrap, untouched. June meets me in a navy vest with her ceramic cutter clipped inside. She doesn't offer sympathy. She hands me safety glasses and a temporary badge. Mr. Keene requested that you not be present during inspection. What did you say? I requested that he arrive on time. Gavin arrives 8 minutes late with Marcy and a consultant from Keene's insurer. He wears a charcoal suit on a warehouse floor and carries a binder thick enough to stop a door. His gaze drops to my badge. Consultant now. Technical witness. For a distributor you contacted using confidential information. June steps between us without making it look like a step. Mid-Atlantic contacted Ms. Keene after finding her tag on our property. Gavin gives her his client's smile. Of course, I'm only clarifying the chain. That's what we're here to do. June photographs the pallet again before cutting the wrap. She removes my tag with the wire intact, places it in a clear evidence sleeve, and asks me to confirm my writing. It's mine. Time? 7:12. Reason? I read the words I wrote when I still believed the tag would keep the pallet in Bay 3. Cracked pressure seals. Do not ship. Gavin opens his binder. He is good. That is the part I wish were less true. He walks June through Keene's inspection frequencies, training records, and historical return rate. He shows that no 6K cylinder from the quarantined lot has lost pressure in shipping. He produces macro photographs in which the pale crescents look shallow and harmless. He explains that witness paint from the torque process can gather at the edge of the seal and resemble a fracture under certain lighting. Then he places the hydrostatic certificates on the table. All 12 pallets passed required pressure testing, he says. The product is compliant. The insurer's consultant nods. June looks at me. The cylinders passed hydro before final valve installation, I say. Gavin turns a page. The completed units also passed final gauge inspection. Immediately after assembly. Correct. A damaged seal may hold initially and leak during temperature cycling. May, he says. We have no verified leak. June removes one of the extinguishers from the tagged pallet. The crescent beneath its collar is almost delicate, a hairline moon. Under the magnifier, it crosses the inner sealing edge. Gavin leans close. His expression doesn't change. June sees that too. We'll cycle samples from the quarantined lot, she says. Controlled cold, ambient recovery, then heat. Pressure and weight recorded at each stage. That will take days, Gavin says. 2 full cycles. Mid-Atlantic has already held saleable inventory for nearly a week. Then you should be interested in a clean result. He closes the binder. On our way out, Marcy catches my sleeve near the receiving office. Luis isn't here, she whispers. I noticed. Gavin brought a typed maintenance summary instead of the original log. Did Luis sign it? No. Did you? Her lips press together. Before she can answer, Gavin calls her name. She walks away without looking back. Luis calls Ben that evening, not me. Ben puts the phone on speaker only after asking him. They want me to correct the weekend entry, Luis says. Machinery hums behind him. Change torque head chirping after coupling service to routine sound observed. No functional variance. Did you? I ask. No. Do you have the original? In the bound maintenance log, locked cabinet in production office. Leave it there. I took a picture Saturday when I sent the service request. On your personal phone? Company tablet, automatic upload. That means the file has a timestamp and a server copy if it hasn't been removed. Don't send it to me, I say. I wasn't going to. His offense is reassuring. Tell June directly when she interviews you. Don't guess, don't add anything, and don't let them make this about helping me. Luis is quiet. It is about helping you, he says. No, it's about what the machine did. He considers that. Machine sounded wrong, he says. I know. The first temperature cycle begins Tuesday morning. By Wednesday afternoon, Gavin circulates an internal message saying preliminary testing has identified no safety failure. Ruth forwards it to Ben with one line. Maybe this can end. It could. That possibility sits beside me while I inspect another row of cylinders for Mel. Maybe the quarantine samples hold. Maybe the field gauges were mishandled. Maybe I was right to stop the truck and still wrong about the size of the danger. Those two things can live together, though nobody around me seems willing to let them. At 6, June sends the first data sheet. Cold cycle, within tolerance. Ambient recovery, within tolerance. Heat cycle, one sample down 3%, still inside the acceptance limit. I read the numbers until they blur. Ben finds me at the kitchen table. It isn't over, he says. No. But Gavin's message arrives before the second cycle begins. Given the successful results to date, Keene expects immediate release of the quarantine shipment and formal withdrawal of Ms. Keene's unsupported allegations. Attached is a photograph of my old office. The red hold tag dispenser has been removed from the wall. I stare at the photograph long enough to notice the clean rectangle where the dispenser used to be. The paint around it is darker, protected from 9 years of dust and fluorescent light. 2 empty screw holes sit above my desk like punctuation. Ben enlarges the image. Why would he send this? To show me holds are over. That's insane. It's efficient. No dispenser, no tags. He sets the phone down. Forward it to June. I can't prove when the picture was taken. It came from his email. That proves he sent it. Ben's frustration rises, then catches on the difference between arguing with me and arguing beside me. He takes a breath. What would make it useful? Context. I forward the entire message to June and say only that the photograph appears to show a change in Keene's hold tag station. Then I ask her to confirm whether the second temperature cycle will continue. She replies with one word. Yes. The next afternoon passes one gauge at a time. I'm with Mel in the back room of a hotel kitchen, kneeling beside a suppression cylinder while a cook pounds chicken on the other side of the wall. Every strike vibrates through the floor. My phone stays face down on a stainless work table. At 2:15, I check it. Nothing. At 3, Mel checks hers on my behalf and announces that a restaurant supply salesman would like her to enjoy wholesale napkins. At 3:40, Darnell rolls a cart through the doorway and looks at both of us. You waiting for transplant organs? Pressure readings, Mel says. Less dramatic. Depends where you're eating. At 4:12, June calls. I step into the loading alley. Warm air blows grease and rain against the brick walls. Second cold cycle remained within tolerance, she says. My hand tightens around the phone. During ambient recovery, sample 4 lost an additional 2%. Sample 6 lost 4. Sample 9 lost 5. Were they weighed? Yes. Mass loss corresponds. The air leaves me slowly. And after heat? 4 and 9 are outside acceptance. 6 is on the limit. We soap tested the valve assemblies. All 3 formed bubbles at the inner sealing edge. The crescent fracture. June continues. We pulled 3 more samples. One shows the same leak. From which pallets? 3 separate pallets, including the tagged one. I lean against the wet brick. You were right to issue the hold, June says. The sentence is plain. She doesn't soften it with sympathy or inflate it with praise. That is why it reaches the place the others couldn't. Thank you, I say. We're not finished. Mr. Keene is challenging chamber calibration and sample handling. Our equipment certificates are current, but I'm sending the units to an independent lab for confirmation. How long? 48 hours. Mid-Atlantic is maintaining quarantine and suspending distribution of related lots. We're also requesting Keene's field return data and the original maintenance log. Gavin won't like that. I'm beginning to detect a pattern. After we hang up, I stay in the alley until the rain darkens the shoulders of my coverall. Mel opens the back door. Well? They leaked. Her face changes. Relief comes first, Then she hates herself for it. "You know what I mean," she says. "I do." She tosses me a clean towel. "Dry off. We still have 2 cylinders and a man upstairs who believes inspection appointments are a personal attack." The independent lab confirms the failures on Friday morning. June sends the report to Keene, its insurer, and the distribution branches that received the earlier lots. The cracks are small enough to hold pressure at stable room temperature and deep enough to leak under repeated thermal expansion. The report recommends tracing every unit assembled after the torque head coupling service. Gavin responds within an hour. He accepts that a limited valve seal condition exists, but argues it can be corrected through field rework. He disputes the need for a broad recall and says Keene's existing inspection process would have detected any material pressure loss before end use. Then Tessa sends June the original bill of lading scan. She doesn't send it to me. June shows it to me later. The scan includes the final wrap time, trailer seal time, and dock camera index automatically attached by Keene's shipping software. Tag 1847 was entered 53 minutes before the final wrap scan and more than an hour before Gavin recorded my termination. The dock image shows me standing beside the 12 pallets with the red tag book in one hand. It also shows Gavin tearing a tag from the closest pallet. Tessa's message to June is 3 lines. "This is the unedited shipment record. I was instructed to replace it with the customer copy, which omits internal dock images. I have retained the original in accordance with our shipping record policy." Gavin calls it an unauthorized disclosure until Mid-Atlantic's contract manager points to the record preservation demand he received Monday. Marcy provides the maintenance summary he submitted and the unsigned original entry from the bound log. Luis's tablet upload remains on the company server, time-stamped Saturday afternoon. The attached photograph shows the worn coupling sitting beside the torque head and the service ticket open beneath it. None of the records proves Gavin wanted leaking extinguishers. Together, they prove he knew my hold had an operational basis before he released it, removed the tags, fired me, and then tried to describe the hold as personal. Ruth asks Ben to come to her house Sunday evening. He asks me to go with him. No. Why? Because if I'm there, Gavin will say you're speaking for me. I am speaking for you. That's the problem. He stands at the foot of the stairs in clean jeans and a blue button-down Ruth bought him 2 Christmases ago. His wedding ring is back on. I touch the second button, which he has put through the wrong hole. "Speak for yourself," I say. He returns after dark carrying the fire extinguisher magnet from Ruth's refrigerator. "She threw this at me," he says. "Your mother?" "Underhand, but with intent." I take the magnet. One corner has chipped. "What did you say?" "That Gavin asked me to turn something you said at dinner into a threat, that he wanted me to help discredit the tag. And she threw Arthur's magnet at you?" "That was after I told her keeping the company alive doesn't mean Gavin gets to decide what kind of company survives." I look at him. "I borrowed that," he says. "From whom?" "You. Probably Mom. Maybe the wall panel argument." He sits on the bottom stair. "She cried," he says. "I haven't seen her cry since Dad's funeral." I sit one step above him. "Did she believe you?" "Yes." "Did she believe me?" He turns the chipped magnet in his fingers. I think she finally understood those aren't different questions. On Monday, Mid-Atlantic returns the tagged pallet to Bay 3 for the formal supplier review. The truck backs into the same dock with June riding in the cab. Keene's insurer has asked that the physical evidence be examined where the release occurred. The tested extinguishers travel in secured cartons. The original shrink wrap has been folded into a clear evidence bag. Tag 1847 lies flat in its sleeve. I enter through the visitor door. The screw holes where my nameplate used to hang are still visible. The red tag dispenser has been remounted beside the quality window, though it is empty. On the dock, Ruth stands with Gavin, Marcy, Luis, Tessa, and the insurer's consultant. Ben waits near the yellow gate. He took the morning off without asking if I needed him to. Gavin looks thinner. He has left the suit at home and wears a Keene work shirt with his name embroidered over the pocket. June lays the evidence across the top of the pallet. She matches the heat-stamped wrap overlap to the receiving photographs. Tessa identifies the shipping label and scan record. Luis identifies the sample serial numbers and his maintenance entry. Marcy confirms the tag book was returned intact and that 1847's bound copy matches the original. Then June slides the red tag from its sleeve. The wire is bent where I threaded it under the first wrap layer. A clear crease crosses the word pressure. One corner carries the adhesive shadow from the carton it rested against. Gavin studies it without speaking. The hold preceded loading, June says. The stated defect was validated in 4 quarantine samples and 3 field units. Mid-Atlantic is treating the shipment as knowingly released against a documented supplier hold. We did not knowingly ship leaking product, Gavin says. His voice is controlled. We disputed an inspector's interpretation. You removed the inspection tags before completing verification. I believe the marks were cosmetic. You also described Ms. Keene's hold as procedurally incomplete. It was incomplete. Marcy clears her throat. Everyone looks at her. The report was opened at 7:08, she says. Gavin received the automated notification at 7:10. Claire completed the sample section before loading began. Gavin's eyes narrow. Marcy, you asked me to type procedurally incomplete after the truck left. Her fingers tremble against the clipboard, but her voice doesn't. June turns the tag so its writing faces Gavin. Your employee identified the defect, isolated the affected lot, documented her readings, and attached controlled hold notices. Mid-Atlantic found this one because it remained under your final wrap. Her warning is valid. The truck idles against the dock plate. The same heavy vibration I felt beneath my boots when Gavin took my badge. This time, he has to look at the tag he missed. Ruth steps forward. Gavin, you're relieved of operational authority effective now. His head comes up. You can't conduct production review without me. The insurer's requiring an independent quality manager. Mid-Atlantic is requiring separate release authority. You'll lose sales if you put an outsider between production and shipping. Then sell, Ruth says. That's what you're good at. The cruelty of it lands because it contains respect. Gavin did save accounts. He did understand customers. He just came to believe every function existed to keep his promises. Ruth's voice lowers. You will stay in sales under review. You will not direct quality, maintenance, or shipping. If you can't accept that, leave. Gavin looks at Ben. Ben doesn't move from the gate. Finally, Gavin looks at me. You got what you wanted. I glance at tag 1847. No, I say. I wanted you to stop the truck. Mid-Atlantic keeps Keene as a supplier under corrective action. The 12 pallets are recalled and reworked. Related lots are traced through service companies, including the units Mel and I found. Keene pays the inspection and replacement costs. The bank reviews the line, but Ruth secures revised terms by showing the distributor contract remains active. The company survives with a smaller quarterly bonus and a much larger calibration budget. My settlement takes 3 meetings. Ruth attends the first. The insurer's representative attends all 3. Gavin attends none. They offer the expired severance again with 2 more weeks added. I bring a single page. Lost wages through today, I say. Reimbursement for the benefits gap. Correction of my personnel record. A written statement that I was terminated after issuing a valid product hold. Neutral reference language attached to the agreement. The insurer's representative adjusts his glasses. We can't characterize the termination as retaliation. I didn't ask you to. Ruth reads the page. You won't come back, she says. No. What if Gavin is removed entirely? I still won't come back. Her eyes rest on me for a moment. Then she signs the terms. Ben doesn't move his pillow back immediately. He starts with dinner. He cooks badly for 3 nights, washes the pans, and listens when I describe the temporary audits without turning every sentence toward Keene. When he finally asks if he can come back to our room, I tell him yes, but not because the test proved I was right. I know, he says. Do you? I should have believed you were acting in good faith even if the cylinders passed. That is the answer I need. June offers me a permanent position after the corrective review closes, supplier quality manager. The pay sits between my old salary and the settlement numbers, and the job involves enough travel to make Ben buy me a suitcase with wheels that actually turn. My first receiving hold happens on a Thursday. A valve collar on an incoming suppression cylinder carries a faint fracture beneath the witness paint. I check the torque record, pull 3 more samples, and fill out a red tag. The receiving supervisor reads it. How much space do you need? 1 quarantine lane for now. You want procurement on the call? After I finish the sample pull. He nods and closes the bay. A forklift carries the pallet into quarantine. The tag swings from its wire in full view, red against the clear wrap. I watch until it comes to rest.